Welcome to episode 1 of the Bible in Context. Today we are exploring how the nation of the Israelites came into being. You probably wonder why this history is important or even relevant, but it is. And by the end of this video, you will see why. Our story about the birth of the Israelite nation unfolds in the 50 years between 1250 and 1200 BCE. According to the books of the Old Testament, the Israelites originated from the descendants of Abraham, who landed in Egypt because of a national drought. They were forced into manual labor by the Egyptian Pharaoh. Then they escaped with the help of Moses, traveled through the desert for 40 years, and successfully invaded Canaan under the leadership of Joshua. But there are no archaeological evidence or non-biblical literature that back up this narrative. For example, according to the book of Joshua, Palestinian cities and inhabitants were completely destroyed, but archaeology found that only the cities of Lachish, Hazor, and Bethel were actually destroyed in that time period. And we can't be sure that it was destroyed by the invading Israelites. So, what do we know for a fact? We know that the version of the Israelite nation existed 3,000 years ago because they were mentioned on a stele from the time of Pharaoh Meneptah, the son of Ramses II. We also know the original settlement of the Israelites were in the highlands of Palestine. In the Mediterranean, towards the end of the Late Bronze Age into the Iron Age, whole civilizations were collapsing and nations scattered. We are still unsure why these civilizations collapsed, but a combination of multiple events like earthquakes, drought, famine, infighting between different classes, or even invasions by the sea peoples are likely. The many people struggling to survive looked at migrating to the highlands when an economy of subsistence farming was establishing itself. It is here where the nation of Israel was born, consisting out of different groups. One of these groups were the nomads of Palestine. They were wandering farmers that roamed around the desert in search of feed for their cattle. Another was peasants who lived on the outskirts of the Palestinian city-states. They were exploited by the inhabitants of these city-states and eventually migrated to the highlands. Soon, whole city-states followed suit. A third group who found a home in the highlands were a group of outlaws called the Hebiru. Second to last, the mishmash of different tribes called the Sea People sailed across the Mediterranean Sea, and some settled in areas around the mainland of the Mediterranean. Their journeys eventually led them to the highlands of Palestine. The last group contributing to the forming of the Israelite nation was the oppressed slaves from Egypt. They met the tribe called the Midianites on their travels and adopted some of their worldviews, including the Midianite god Yahweh. They came to believe that the deliverance from Egypt were because of this new god. But more about this in the next episode. For now, it is important to realize that the Israelites consisted out of many groups of people with many different traditions and beliefs. The next question is, what traditions did all these groups of people, blending into what became the Israelite nation, bring to the table? In other words, how did they influence the Israelites' religion? This is the question we will discuss in the next episode.